Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this session
Justice
we
ain't
are
gonna
reviewing
dispense
a
itself.
Masters McCree. I believe we're looking at about 3,500, so low Masters here. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that helps me out quite a bit, and I really do appreciate that. Or if you are looking to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below, see what
That'll
rates
get
look
it
like, what sort of
done.
promos, special events we have going on, all the good stuff like that.
You should be at peak performance levels. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming.
Okay.
Defend objective A.
Crosshair's resting a little low here. It's unlikely that someone's out here, but they could be.
Barrier in place.
That's better. Okay.
You needed a doctor?
Like a man possessed.
Hey, Blah. Your tanks aren't pushing. Okay, now they're pushing aggressive enough. Fine. No. So, okay, one more appropriate rewind. So this is good. Pushing up, you're taking your off angle. That's exactly what we want. You get your reload done while you're mostly out of line of sight. And you're getting aggressive here, but you're getting aggressive here when you know your ball is about to go. I'd actually say this is a touch early in terms of you pushed up, you opened this angle, you took your space when your Sigma was sort of pulled back. So you actually had real risk of this Hanzo being facing this way and his attention not really being forced this way or in your ball's way. So this was really a touch early, but they do know your ball's here. They do know that your Sigma was just here. You do have some level of distraction. With McCree, you really get the safest opportunity for your open when your tanks are taking space, though, as opposed to just when they're distracted by I know these tanks exist. So we could have optimized that timing a little bit better. That said, certainly worked out in this situation. Take your shots here. Great.
Killing.
And I'm totally fine if you want to roll here. I am totally fine if you want to roll to sustain. But here, you get about half your reload done, little less, and then you roll. And this isn't really a roll to sustain anymore. This wasn't really a roll to get cover or a roll. I mean, it was sort of a roll to get cover, but it should have been a roll to get cover and a roll to sustain. You should be pretty willing to immediately repeat this. Like, I'm not saying actually immediately repeat this, but you want to be hanging out like here-ish, not like over here-ish. You want to immediately work your way back, and you didn't, because as soon as Sigma reopens this, you want to reopen this yourself. You want Sigma or someone to pull a little bit of attention back this way so that you can get them. And if you look at what you're doing, here you are. Again, great, fine. We're in trouble. We spent our last shot. We decide, oh, we weren't quite tracking our ammo closely enough, or we probably would have hit this roll immediately. But then we go for this roll, and we keep moving left. We keep moving left, and I don't like that at all. There's really not a great reason to do that. You don't want to push up behind your Sigma and make his direction more powerful. And maybe you're thinking, hey, I'm going to help challenge this Widow. That's why I'm over here. And that's cool and all, but I really don't care. I really would much prefer that you go back over here because these guys, based on their Widow getting challenged, are going to be paying attention over here, and that's going to give you a chance to immediately eliminate their lamp. And we don't want to wait out this lamp. So this is not optimized. But hey, she went down. I'm good. Hey, Blux. What are you thinking about? Hey, Semitic. I mean, it's definitely not the worst thing in the world. Like, it's definitely not the worst thing in the world to take your 6v1 against the Widow here. I would have liked you to go ahead and redig that. Yeah, the right side looks like such a free off angle. It basically was. It basically was. It's not terrible to take this Widow. I totally understand the concept of, hey, let's take our 5v1 here and let's eliminate the Widow. It's not terrible, but I really would have preferred to go do this, and this Widow wasn't actually a threat. You have your Hanzo checking it, you have your Ana, you have your Sigma. This Widow was under control, and while this Widow was not very likely at all to get an elimination, was almost certainly going to go down, we could have taken out this lamp and then started on the next guy. But that's okay.
Your support has arrived.
I used to be an adventurer like you, but then I took a bullet to the knee. Different McCree VOD review. It's a different McCree than
Hold up now.
our last Master's McCree, sure.
The objective must be taken.
Ahlan. Hello.
Damage increase.
That'll get it done.
You'd even use it as Zen. Yeah, fair.
You back in the fight.
Let's head for the hills.
It's a little
I'm
aggressive
on
for a
fire.
Zen. You don't have a ton of protection, but you've got a little bit of distance.
Observe the barrier.
Okay. Well, do you want it or not? If you're saying forget it, I don't care about this bubble, I want to burn this Reinhardt down as fast as possible, totally fine. But if that's the case, if you've made the decision to actively shoot this bubble, everything after the first bullet, probably even the first bullet, should have been a fan. Like, why are we doing this one bullet at a time against this? You weren't sure if you want to shoot bubbles or not. Okay. By the way, if we want to look at this because you have a question of whether you should shoot these bubbles or not, we can do that, and this is fine. If you want to go, hey, my Mercy, my Sigma, and I are all here, we can fight this, I want to go ahead and burst through this, I don't care about this, that would be reasonable. I'd have probably now said, no, we're not going to shoot anymore, but that's not the decision you make. And the one ammo reload there doesn't make sense. You reloaded one shot, and it was like, yes, she had a bubble up when you hit the button, but she doesn't have a bubble up for the whole time that you're locked into your reload animation, and you would have expected that, well, I can at least find shots on either Reinhardt or Reinhardt shield. I'll be able to find something resembling Reinhardt shots with my 5 shots rather, or, you know, with 1 or 2 of my 5 shots before the Zarya's bubble is gone, rather than waste this time in this reload here. I would just go for a couple of right clicks. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm not saying you'd actually like, you wouldn't actually like advance on them. You'd just take your right clicks there. Right clicks, try to force the enemy team to look at me while pressuring left side. Yeah, exactly. Well, close enough to exactly. I mean, you'd go for the right click a limb and then you'd make them think about the fact that you're there. Sure.
You should be at peak
It's a little dicey, but that's easy. Hard to do up the stairs like that. Why? I'm good with this. I don't love it. This is fine. Not sure why you're staying quite so in the middle of the stairs here. Like, you can play tighter on the cover, and when you play tighter on the cover, you're not then just reloading down the stairs like this. Now, it turns out there isn't anyone else there, and by the end of the reload, you are leaving, but, like, are you confident that this Hanzo is here, as opposed to, you know, sitting right here, ready to peek, sitting right here, ready to peek? I'm not. Okay, I am because I have a replay viewer, but heck.
Is there it?
Barrier in place.
Nano boost discharged.
Crosshair's a tiny bit low here. Like, that's at your Sigma's kneecap. Sigma's a taller hero than other heroes, but your enemy's head is still going to be about where Sigma's stomach is. So can we bring that up a little bit? Just as we're dragging? There we go. A little better. But then you're back to sitting it a little low. Like, why is your crosshair here? There's not a check over here. There's not a check up here. There's not like, oh, my crosshair's up here. Your crosshair, if we look at you, is just resting down here.
heroes never die.
It's high noon.
We still need
Sure.
moving the payload.
Draw.
What did you use your roll on? Here you are. You used your roll there. That's a pure sustain roll. You're getting nothing in terms of useful movement from that. I mean, you're moving to here, which is a little bit of a different angle, but you did the whole move behind cover. Okay. But if you don't have your roll, backing out here is a little dicey. Why? Why did you wander back? Like, I'm good with this. I don't understand why you wandered back like this. There's no chance that you're dropping back here, and you don't need to just be strafing like this. You weren't actually strafing anything when you started to move, though now you're taking damage. You wanted to be moving more over here so that you'd have a real cover option again. Like, some of these people, like Hanzo, can climb, like Bap can jump. You wanted to get yourself not just, hey, left, right, strafe control, hey, backing up makes me deeper on the high ground, which makes it harder to see me. You wanted to get to here. That's not changing your effective range, but it's giving you a better cover option. It's giving you an even steeper angle if you want it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Why do you think you can stay here? So the shot is fine, or the flash and shot is fine at her. But you see how you're just sort of like, I'm in this space. You're not like trying to get yourself back to your cover. You're not like hard rushing out here. You're sort of like, ooh, like there's nowhere for you to go here. And this sucks, don't get me wrong, because it turns out they're all right up here. But at least it's not the middle of the road where they could be hitting you from here. They could be hitting you from here. They could be hitting you from here. Like, you want to have somewhere in mind where you're going, even if you're trying to strafe move. You want to have a direction that you're trying to get. And it doesn't look to me like you do. There was a weird ult, there was none. I mean, he was trying to threaten some space, maybe get the Lucio. It was a different angle than his team. Could we have microed it? Sure. Just use high noon for reload like a real chat. I mean, that's a valid use of it. Perfectly valid.
Get this doggy moving.
Okay, that time we were willing to fan. Good. Sure. You can't stay here. Yeah, that's too dangerous of a spot to stay because, like, you can see that they know exactly where you are and that the spot is too narrow and confined. Because the spot is so narrow and confined, it makes their shots really easy to hit, even if they don't know exactly where you are. Which is why the fire strike and right click both threaten you here. Yeah. Okay.
Everybody come over here. Hello. Hey. Hello there. How y'all doing?
I'm in.
It's about right, Block. Keep rotating. Sure. If Hans is going to give you that angle, by all means. Ooh! Unfortunate time for your aim to failure. Why? I'm good with this. You came up here, you took that down, you have 3 shots left. Let's spend them. 1, 2. Well, we could have spent more of them. I'm not sure why we felt the need to roll there with 2 shots left. Is that... No, it's not. I'm not sure why you felt the need to roll there with 2 shots left in your clip instead of continuing to shoot. And if you were going to roll there, I didn't want to go towards the open. I wanted to go towards cover. Yes, this going towards the open opened the angle on the Lucio for you to potentially finish him more. But what do you know? The roll this way would have opened the angle on the Zarya and would have given you a little bit more in terms of, like, we do want to be thinking, I know you've won this fight primarily, you haven't completely run this fight, but, like, you do want to be thinking about, I probably shouldn't end up after my roll in the open. I should probably end up near something that I can go behind if I need to, because I've got nothing left other than out-aiming my opponent if I'm in the open, and I've already used my roll. Oh, come on. Come on. Is this going to be another reloading video? First you roll reload at 2 without a good reason, and now you're going to manually reload at 3. Okay, it can be a reload video. That's fine. Cool. Take your shot. Why are you aimed at her buttocks? Why is your crosshair down there? And now it's at her stomach. Like, aim higher. Why are you looking down to reload? You're not going to be flashing someone. I don't know why you're aimed down.
How y'all
Mm-hmm. So, like, again, your default height, this is fine as the default height. It's actually a little high. It's not your default height. This is it flicking up a little bit. But your default height should be like their neck, their shoulder level, their neck level, something like that. That way, that's how you can get your consistent headshots. That's how you're going to get the least possible reaction time to hit your stuff. And this matters. Being a fraction of an instant faster on that first shot absolutely matters, especially with a burst here like McCree. But it absolutely is going to matter, is going to make a difference. I don't know if you have this tendency to aim down a little bit because you're thinking about flashbangs that you maybe want to hit the ground or something. You're not really aiming down extremely enough for that, but maybe that's the thought. Maybe it's a compromise between being able to flick down for that or flick up for regular shots. But like, you're not even aiming straight across a lot of the time. You're aiming like down a little. And we don't even want to aim straight across. We want to aim up a little at where most heroes' necks or shoulders are going to be. Again, and our default is we're moving around. Like, that's where our crosshair should just be comfortable resting. Hi, Temporal. I was the Gold Moira in your review yesterday. Thank you once again for doing that review. It helped a lot already. No problem. I'm glad that helped you. I'm really glad that one helped you.
Healing in the heart.
So again, here you are. That's okay. It's a little bit low. I'm just going to slow this down for you to see it. It's a little bit low without great reason. It's the Zarya bubble, so it doesn't really matter. But here we are, and it's still low. It's low for Reinhardt. It's low for Zarya. It's staying a little bit low there. And it's not like it's hard to aim a little bit higher here. It's not like, oh my goodness, Ryan's head hitbox is so small, and if I miss his head hitbox, I'll hit nothing. No, if you're aiming at like the neck or shoulder height, you're just going to hit his shoulders. You're just going to hit his upper chest, or you're going to hit his head. You're not going to be like, oh, I was aiming here, and I missed way too far to the right, or I missed way too far high. No, that's not really your concern. You can aim it properly. This is where you want it, but this is after it's recoil up. And this isn't where you want it after the recoil up. This is where, height-wise, you want it, generally speaking. Okay, I'm not sure about the one ammo reload there, but whatever. Not this one behind cover, the one in the open. I'll point it out. Yeah, you had the shot left there. And that wasn't a roll to dodge, that was a sustain roll.
I need a doctor.
Which you then didn't use the sustain of, but hey.
heal up. Ahlan.
Really? So your hog peeks something, he backs off, and you decide to peek your hog's angle? Like, you didn't know that was a Hanzo, I suppose, but you're re-peeking an angle without the big bulky thing that has a giant health pool to take it for you? I don't want to peek this. If my hog backed off from it, I kind of want to give it a moment, you know? He stunk up the place. Give it a moment to air out? No, but seriously, like, give it a moment so that they're not just staring at that, so that something else happens, so that they're looking somewhere else. He didn't just turn and walk away for no reason. Or even if he did turn away and walk away for no reason, his no reason is he wants to go take a different angle and give you this one, which would be perfectly valid. You still want to give it a moment, because he showed himself. So people are potentially going to have been looking there. This is effectively you re-peeking. And if he'd walked, you could have walked behind him, but that's not what happened. Okay. See this? See this? Your team's still over here? I just told you that I didn't want you to immediately repeat this. I know. That doesn't mean that I want you to hard abandon it, because it is the best route on this map. And if your team is going main, yeah, it'd be really tempting, really good to go this way, in fact. Now, it's going to turn out that you would have, even if you'd stayed here, gone, oh, no, I don't like this, and I'm probably going to leave, or I'm going to bully Ryan as I leave. Either of those are fine. But you didn't want to just give this up and start going this way with your team, because now your whole team is like, we're going this way. When we once would have preferred some of my team is going this way, and then as my team draws attention, I give my team 3/4 of a second, a second and a half to draw attention so that Hanzo isn't looking this way, and then I go up here. And then maybe I find the Reinhardt, so I battle him a little bit and back off, making sure not to get caught, making sure to not really be punishable, and that's fine. If he hadn't been here, though, I'd have taken over this, and as my team is threatening this way or getting threatened from this way, I'm able to get my opening shots, my elimination, all that stuff. Like, we do need this off-angle power, but we have to understand how the off-angles work. We do not, as McCree, we do not in Overwatch, want to just run 6 people up, up the same direct, obvious path. And if we were, it would be this path. So your Hog gets it and is going for his off angle. But part of why you're eliminated here is because these guys, at least until Hog shows himself, get to spend all of their attention in this direction. In this direction. Like, there's no, oh, I'm shooting at McCree and therefore I don't see the Ashe. Nope, they're right next to each other. I'm shooting at the Sigma so I don't see the McCree. Nope, they're right next to each other. You want to put them in a situation where they have to think about this and this, this and this. Like, that's what we want. This and this. Now, this would take a while to get to, but you don't want to be in a situation where they can put all of their attention in one direction. It makes it easier for them for a strafe standpoint. It makes it easier for them for an attention standpoint. It makes it so that you don't get a nice first shot advantage that they aren't paying attention to. Like, again, they don't have to look both ways. Their strafe that's good against that is also good against you, whereas if you're there, them strafing like this does nothing. We want our different angles. And if you saw the Reinhardt was here and you couldn't do it, I'd have actually gone this way. Your Hog was slow to go this way. He went and did the same thing that you did, and you should have totally been on top of that and been like, if I can't go here, maybe I'll go here instead. It'll still potentially give me different shots on them.
Heroes never die.
Why are we looking at the ground? Okay, to spray things. But even when we're done spraying things, our crosshair was a little low. Okay. Are you gonna sneak up on them? I'm not comfortable that your team is pushing hard enough for this. Sort of? Okay. Sure. I mean, I'm just not convinced that your team should be in this fight at all right now with your Hog back here, with all that going on, but okay.
I'm moving the payload.
I zoned out for a bit. Why does he still have ults? Is this a new one? No, the last ult that we saw was the one that he did from over here. So, like, this push wasn't amazing because your team didn't have enough going on. Like, again, you have to use your team as a distraction, and I know your team is in pretty deep, so they seem like they should be a distraction, but you guys are so low on people right now. Yes, they're missing someone too, but, like, you do not have the threat going on to be pushing in like this. I would love this if you had more threat going on. Okay. Sure, reasonable combo. It's unfortunately not going to work because your Sigma has no health. That's unfortunate.
Draw.
Interesting. Okay. Why are you pushing back into the open here? Are you just trying to trade out? I feel like there's no reason, yeah, there's no reason that you should believe that you can't get away. Like, you had your role, you had the ability to get out from here. Yeah, Tracer's going to try to chase you down, but you have Mercy with you. You can absolutely get out. So I don't know why you're making this decision of I just have to trade. This fight is clearly over. I mean, they took out your Sigma and your Ana. This is over. You're not going to win, so you've either got to immediately trade out or get out, and getting out is the better move here. And now you decide to leave, sort of? Yeah.
I'm in
60 seconds remaining.
It ain't my time.
Get them off me.
Sure would have been nice if rather than spraying the ground, we'd had our crosshair at the appropriate height and preferably either set up right here or right here, because these are the two places that enemies are likely to show up. You could make an argument for up here, but preferably at one of these places. And if we'd done that, there's a chance that, what do you know, our crosshair would have been sitting right here. And especially based on the sound effects that we heard and seeing our Mercy moving away like this, that could have been something that we had all the clues that we needed to make this not like a 100%, this is definitely the place to put our crosshair, but hey, this is probably a pretty good place to put our crosshair as we continue in this direction. It's not going to slow us down. We can still make that angle such that it doesn't slow us down. Instead, you're admiring the brickwork there. Oh, and look, that Tracer was already missing health, so a single shot would have eliminated them. Or, maybe we don't have our crosshair there. Maybe we have our crosshair in this other place over here. Would have been too far, but hey. Almost not too far for a flash. Might have just barely, you wouldn't have been able to stop the shatter, but you would have potentially been able to get that flash timing to stop him immediately after the shatter and before you're on the ground. But that's minor and would have been very difficult. Sure would have been nice for this Tracer to not be in here, though. It's dealt with. Pay attention to the McCree, or to the Rhine. Good. Better.
30 seconds remaining.
Halo dismantled. Possession and moving out.
So that was better. That was not some dangerous double repeak. Yes, you were peeking when your hog was there, potentially taking damage, taking shots, but your hog was still there. So that makes more sense. I'm not going to blame you for that reload.
Need a doctor.
I am going to blame you for just, like, doing whatever with your camera, though, here. Like, you keep the Tracer way more honest if you keep the weapon in their direction. Like, you can go this way if you want, you can go this way if you want, but we're not going to turn and go this way. Oh, 10% faster movement. Yay, I don't care. I don't care. I definitely want my weapon keeping Tracer honest in this direction. That's going to protect me way more than an extra 10% speed for trying to get out. So if I'm trying to get out, that's fine. I can try to get out, but I'm going to keep my weapon in that direction until I'm more sure that she's gone, that she's not coming back, rather than turning and running. Like, the threat to her, keeping her honest with the weapon play, worth way more. Even though it seemed like she'd left. She hadn't really left. It's Tracer. And even if it seemed like it, you got to be more sure than that.
10 seconds.
The battle continues. Огонь по готовности. Heroes never die.
It ain't my time.
Okay. Your crosshair is low. You have a little bit of reload problems. Though that's minor compared to the crosshair and compared to your timing. Like, you sort of get the off angles. You went up and took that off angle well, If we go back on first point here, like the first time you went up and took this off angle well, though you went and did it really when your team wasn't quite at maximum threat, you really want to turn your off angle into the first open while your tanks are doing something. You can be like, nope, I'm leaving while my tanks are making space. I'm less likely to get caught doing this while my tanks are doing something, even if that something is just throwing up the barrier and throwing a couple things, or just, unballing and shooting for a minute, even if it's not the hard engage of the slam, the hard engage of the actual push, even if it's just like, hey, they're threatening, that would have been better for the first one. And then you didn't retake the off angle when your team was doing, hey, this good widow thing that was going to get this team to pay attention over here. You failed to retake this. Then we go over here and we see you maybe sort of thought about the off angle, though you were really too happy in general to play with your team here, and then you peeked it when your hog had just peeked it, which didn't make sense, and then again, you were too happy to go back with your team here. We don't want that. We do actually want the off angle. If we can take an off angle that doesn't take away a ton of the team's in-combat uptime for us to go take it, we want it as McCree. We're slow, so we can't be like, oh, I'm fighting here, let me change my mind while the fight is going on and take an eternity to go hike up here. Like, yes, that takes too long. But if you're already here, you do want to just go, I'm going to wait 1 second, a second and a half. Okay, now I'm going to redo it. Or when we're coming out here, I split in the first place because it's not going to take me any longer to go this way than this way. Those are things that we want to do. We don't want to invest tons and tons of time during the fight on long flanks, but if we can, while the team is rotating ourselves, or if we can do, hey, the team's here, I'm going to change my mind and go here, and that's a short rotation that just takes us like a second and a half, 2 seconds, which is something that we'd be willing to wait out of the fight for people to stop paying attention to our angles anyways before we repeak it. We want to do that. And again, if an angle's too hot, we don't want to take all this time to rotate back. We just want to wait half a second, 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds, and then repeak it. That's what we're looking to do. That's how we're expecting to get our value on McCree. Like the crosshair height and fixing that is going to take you the furthest so far of the things that we've seen. And then the next thing that we'd get to perhaps would be our reloads. But we're going to pay a little more attention to see if those are going to grow, shrink, etc. as an issue.
Justice ain't gonna dispense itself.
Let's shoot for a new high score. Is that it?
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
Smoking's bad for your health.
Well, I have faith you can get me patched back up, Doc.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming.
Yes.
Defend
I'd
objective
prefer you
A.
go through my Discord, Jimmy. If you join my Discord in the description below, you can see my rates there. You can pay through PayPal or Cash App. But if you would really like to have some other service in the middle of it, you can currently find me on Fiverr. I don't know how long that partnership is going to last, but you can currently find me there.
Ahlan.
I've kind of outgrown them at this point.
Hello there.
Activating the barrier.
Affirmative.
Okay, so here you are. You decide to drop. Probably because you know the Widow's on the other team at this point. I missed it. Let's do one more here. You're here. Your team's deciding to hold here. 49 seconds. You don't know what the comp is. You take your shots. You pressed tab because we passed 45 seconds, and because we pressed tab and saw that there's a Widow, you decided to drop. Fine.
Affirmative.
Okay. If your Ashe is paying attention over there, that's perfectly fine. You pay attention to the right. She's got that covered well enough. You see your Ashe and your Diva and your Mercy have effectively attention over there. Your Reinhardt is sort of like, or not your Reinhardt, your Sigma is sort of like, oh, hey, I'm over here kind of alone. You want to pay attention to this direction. You need to, one of the things when you get into pokey comps is appropriately distributing your attention resources. This is too much attention to the left, and your right's about to get crushed, and your right, sure enough, is getting overwhelmed. And they got in easier, they got in more cheaply than they should have right there. They should have taken an extra fan, for example, to that Reinhardt.
Pardon me.
Okay.
Objective lost.
Back in the saddle
Stop
again.
the payload.
Tracer here. Hi.
Oh, that'll do.
Crosshair's
fine.
low. And why here? So you're coming back. You know that you're coming back here. Yes, they could have a widow, but even if they have a widow, you know the spots that she's likely to peek from. You know where she's likely to be, and you're not too worried about her at the ranges that it's going to be if you show up like here. Like, this is something that you're fine with. So you would like to go, hey, I'm here. I'm not going to go back and join down here. I'm perfectly fine. Even with you having a widow, to me, go back. I'm paying attention to where your widow is likely to peek from. I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention. Oh, there's your widow, but we're at a close range fight. We're at a fight that isn't such a range where you're at a huge advantage. We're not at McCree's perfect range where it's like, hey, he's got flash advantage on her. But here, we're going to be at a range that she has a reasonable fight, and she's likely going to want to, if I really time this right, going to want to be paying attention to my team or trying to work my way forward into my team, at which point I can get the jump on her. That's what you could be doing here. If we're really thinking about our off angles, we're really thinking about, hey, we can't just engage the team with our core. That's how we want to do this.
Oh, that'll do. Fine.
Yeah, now you're just forcing damage down this same boring main the same way the rest of your team is. Your team has no map control. Zero. Not zero. Very little map control here. If this looks like a zero, it should. Not really, but hey. Whereas they've got up here, they've got up here, they're also pushing here. Of course, they're going to deepen these, and you're going to lose. Or instead, because all you guys have is this, or instead, you should have been pushing up this way. That potentially would have pushed back the Tracer. If you didn't like it, you roll out, and your Mercy can still hop over and help you. If the Tracer had already left, you push up here, probably as the Widow's pushing in, and then you either eliminate the Widow, you cause the Widow to drop down here, or you get eliminated by the Widow. So be it. But you could eliminate the Widow, you could force the Widow down that way, you could force the Widow back out that way, and then think how much better your team's map control gets just by having their McCree here. How incredibly much better just by having the Widow here. You've pushed back the Tracer and the Widow. Or one or the other, whatever the case may be. Like, now, you're going to get crushed from three directions. And you could say, no, this is D.Va's job. Yeah, D.Va should be doing this too. But so should you. And you could say, no, this is Tracer's job. Also true. Don't care.
Time to recover. Let's try that again.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay. And we're just boring force main again. Or not main, but boring forcing the direction that both our tanks are forcing again. Okay. I'm a little uncomfortable being here. Sights are going. I don't know exactly where Widow is. Drop. Too late. And you're staggered. Okay.
Victory.
So here's the thing, as we get into your Kree, it's the three things that I thought it was going to be, and it's really the first two things, but we'll mention the third just because, hey, it's there. Really, let's not even to get into the third thing. Really, it was the two. So when we get into your two things, the first thing and the pure mechanical thing is going to bring your crosshair aim up a little bit, specifically when you're just wandering around. Some of this looks like it's from a spray habit. You're going spray, spray, spray on the ground, which I don't super care about, though we did see that perhaps that distracted you from having your crosshair lined up on the Tracer. But even after you're done spraying, even after you're getting closer to back to the fight, your crosshair is resting more at like stomach height, and we really want to bring that up to the neck, to the shoulder height. That wants to be where you rest it. And it's not just neck or shoulder height directly across from you. It's neck or shoulder height for the place that an enemy could appear that you're holding your crosshair. So again, I might be holding my crosshair here. I might be holding my crosshair here. I might be holding my crosshair here. But I want to sort of be holding my crosshair on one of these things as I'm rotating, as I'm wandering. I want to have it in these vicinities, and I want to have it at the appropriate height as I'm going to. Maybe this is where I'm going. Maybe I'm holding my crosshair here as I'm doing it. It depends a little on the information that I have. And that's something that I can do. It's really not giving up speed to do that, and it's meaning if someone shows up to try to peek to get me, oh, nope, I win. And that's important, especially as a hit scan player there. So pay a little bit more attention to where you're just naturally resting your crosshair in terms of bring it to people that places that people can appear, and especially bring it up a little bit because yours rests too low. The second thing is you do not always 100% have to be playing on off angles. I hounded on you taking and holding and understanding when you can and can't peek off angles pretty hard this game, and that's not to say that you're always 100% doing that as McCree, but it is something that in a lot of matchups you're going to have to understand, and you do have to make sure that your team has some level of map control. You can't all be grouped here when the opposing team has control here and here and here. You're going to get crushed. You can't go. I didn't love this either, where you guys were like, oh, let's all 6 of us stack on point. In that situation, it would have been better if you divided your attention. But like, we need to be in these situations where we get a lot of power from our peak. We get a lot of power from an off-angle peak, especially when they don't know that we're there. A lot of power. And that's something that you really want to leverage when you can. Again, with McCree, you can't take forever to rotate to an off-angle, but if you can get an off-angle with just a second or two, and it's a new fresh off angle, or even if it's just a different angle than your team, that's going to carry a lot of power for your team, and we'd like you to have that. If you've then got your roll, you won't make it all the way back to your team, but you can close the angle, or you can sustain on the angle after you've gotten the pick or two, and you can get a little bit closer to your team, at which point the Mercy can help you, the Anna can help you, whatever the case may be. Like, these off angles are really powerful, and I want you to default more to thinking about playing them. When you're playing against super heavy dive teams, you can go a little less with that, or when your team is leaning super, super heavy into tight rotational brawl stuff. Like, in your rotations, you can stack pretty tightly together, but you tack tightly together to get through certain spots, and then you fan back out for your off angles. Or you can get some very specific organized play stuff where you're actually trying to do a rush type thing where you go, hey, we're trying to rotate, and now we're just trying to run you over as 6 type thing. But that is not your default. Your default in most situations is going to be, hey, I'm working my way onto small off angles, onto low time investment off angles for the power that we get there, for the map control that we get there, for what we get in terms of compromising the opponent's cover, the peak advantage, all of that good stuff. Like, that is going to be the thing that is going to fundamentally change your gameplay the most here. Like, yes, helping your aim with the better crosshair placement, that'll absolutely help, but the thing that is going to be like, hey, let me change my understanding a bit, let me evolve this, I thought I was doing this okay, but there's actually room to do it 30% better, that's where you're going to find the, I won't say easier gains, but the more mental gains as opposed to just the mechanical gains of the other one. So those are the 2 things I would give you to work on. And with most people, I say, hey, work on one then the other. There's very little reason you can't work on. No, I'm still going to have you work on one then the other. So pick one, be it bringing up your crosshair height, thinking more about where people are going to appear with your crosshair there as you're moving, as you're in your downtime, and spend like 5 to 15% of your brain power specifically on that while you're playing. So that might make your tactics a little worse. That might make your thinking about, oh, what's going to happen next a little worse, your ult tracking, whatever. That's okay. You're using a little bit of your brain power while you're playing to think about, oh, is my crosshair where it should be? Oh, am I looking at the right doorway? Am I thinking about the right spot that might appear? And is my crosshair at the right height for either the hero that I would expect to appear there, or the average hero height in terms of their neck? Is it? Like, that should be taking up some of your brain power. And it might be like 5 games, it might be like 15 games, it might be 20 games, where you just do that until you discover that you're just automatically doing that, even when you pull your brain power off of it and stop spending this brain power. And then once that's happened, once you've realized, okay, I did this for however many games it took for that to just become my new habit, my new default, I do this without dedicating mental resources to it, then you move on to thinking more about, hey, there's more I can do with my off angles. Maybe I don't remember everything Temporal said about the off angles because I've played 20 games, whatever it is, thinking about bringing my crosshair height up. So I'm going to go back and rewatch the video, rewatch the examples that's still saved at that URL, so I can go, oh, yeah, I got this. He wanted me to really make sure that when it's a short time investment to go get that off angle, that I get it, that I'm willing to wait behind cover for a second and a half for the opponents to go look away again, that I make sure that I'm peeking and doing my work when my front line is pushing in some way, doing something to pull attention to them, throwing out a Sigma shield, going in with boosters, pushing up with their Rhine shield, peeking their own Ash shot, whatever the case may be. So those are the real things I want you to focus on coming out of this. If you have questions, you can throw them up in chat, or if other people have questions, they can throw them up in chat as well. If people are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that helps out quite a bit, and I really do appreciate that. Or if you are looking to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below, see what rates look like, see what sort of promos, special events we have going on, all of that good stuff. Okay, so Masa was the Golden Moira. Yep, glad you enjoyed that one. We talked about that. Yeah, upgrading your coalescences will definitely help there. So do that, and that should be pretty low-hanging fruit for you. Blah, that's the zoned out. No, he held one of his high noons for quite a bit there. So it's always best to play with your main tank as McCree? No. When I was saying I wasn't even saying play with your main tank. We had a Diva Sigma double off tank combination, and here I was saying pay attention in this direction, but that didn't have to do with that his main tank was here. That had much more to do with this was under control. The Mercy boosted Ash was already paying attention to this angle, and I did not want our McCree also paying attention to that angle. And it turned out our Diva and our Anna were also paying attention to that, but even just the Mercy boosted Ash would have been enough for me to say I want my Cree paying attention to a different angle. Because we could tell that the team were in a situation where they have their Mercy boosted Ash here, they have their Reinhardt here, they have their Cree and Anna here, and they have their Diva over here. This team is about to get overrun from multiple angles. So like we want to stop that. We want to make sure that's not the case. We want to split our initial attention so that these angles are as appropriately answered as they can be. As opposed to if 5 people, which was the case, are paying attention in this direction, well shoot, now if 3 people push from this direction, our Reinhardt is going to get run over, immediately have to surrender space hard rather than getting to use and enforce this corner at all, and these guys are going to get in more easily than they should. Whereas if our McCree is paying attention in this direction, we can get an extra fan off. That potentially, or we can threaten some headshots. That potentially threatens these guys enough that it slows them down, that it lets our Reinhardt hold his corner and lets him potentially do more. Might he still have had to surrender his corner instantly? Yeah, he might have. But this wasn't a generally Reinhardt has to pay, or Sigma, excuse me, it was. This wasn't a generally play with your shield tank as McCree thing. Sometimes that makes sense. Sometimes you go for a flash play. This was your team's attention needs to be appropriately distributed for what the enemy threats are. You'll notice for most of the rest of this, I was saying, stop going here, stop going here, stop going here, please go here, or potentially threaten down here. So yeah, it's definitely not a hard rule of play with your tank as McCree. The Ash shouldn't be grouping up, for example. Yeah, we would prefer that our Ash goes and plays somewhere else. We would prefer if we have to pick between one DPS is going to play with the core and one DPS is going to play on the off angle, we would prefer that the Ashe goes and plays on the off angle. If she's not, we'd go do it. But we're also perfectly happy to go, Sigma's plenty threatening enough, especially if they have something like Zen with them. Sigma can be threatening enough on their own, so we might go McCree's over here and Ashe is over here, and that might be perfectly fine with us. We might go Sigma plus a support, maybe it was Anna in this case. Good enough, that's okay. We'll take different angles and take different map control. Again, depends on the situation. Blue X, I would say it depends on what can the enemy team do. If you can easily pressure you, play next to your main tank for easy peel. If they're super static, play off angles. Right, it's going to vary a little. Why not just hold roller coaster on point A? No one actually holds roller coaster on point A. So this isn't really defensible. People will start here and they'll go for like soft poke from here, but you've probably noticed how basically every time, under even the faintest whiff of a soft dive, the faintest whiff of TNT being thrown up here, the faintest whiff of, oh, these guys are going to throw up their own May wall and rotate past here, you have to drop off roller coaster and pull back to point. Like, this is a soft hold. This isn't a real hold from up here in most situations. You can get some very specific Orisa type comps, some very specific things that are going to go, no, we're going to go hard from here. But the overwhelming majority of the time, this is a soft hold that even getting soft engaged upon will cause them to retreat back to here. Works in my gold games? Okay, well. And your gold games, teams probably don't know how to do. What was I going to say? Teams probably don't do the best job of going, hey, we're here, we're here, we're here. Let's do a quick rotation up to here and flip the map on you. Or they probably don't do, hey, we're going to come out on dive and we're going to hit a soft dive on you type stuff. But hey. What about Sigma Hanzo off angle on defense, or isn't that kind of spam defense a thing anymore? Sigma Hanzo off angle. Oh, sure. Well, you can have an off angle team up here. You could be like Sigma Hanzo up here while you have something else here, like maybe an Orisa Ash here. Sure, that could work, but then you're just playing to the off angles. This isn't your full core hold right here, though, and the Sigma Hanzo are absolutely ready to leave if, say, they get dove. Like, even a half dive will cause them to retreat. They might then retake it, but even a half dive will cause them to retreat. It's not a permanent hold. Yeah, that's what you mean. Yep, no problem. Slightly unrelated, one thing I commented on the review you did of mine, I used Fade to cleanse Ash Nade, TNT. If I wasn't in direct need of my Fade, what do you think of that? Yeah, definitely not a full team on top. That's my... Well, Fade to cleanse TNT isn't necessarily wrong, but I remember the one I commented on in the video. You used Fade to cleanse TNT and then ended up in the open where people could shoot at you. You weren't like then in a spot. You were in a spot that was as if you still had Fade. Where you can position the aggressiveness you can position with Moira when you have Fade versus when you don't have Fade is different. And you faded from a not terribly aggressive position into a moderately aggressive position, but now you were missing a bunch of health. You were at like half health and you didn't have Fade. Well, that's not going to work. That's not going to work at all. Hey, Akashi. Hope you're doing well. Okay, final chance. If any of you have questions, throw them up now. Remember, if other people have questions, you can get them in here in the future. You can ask me questions live. Find a contenders coach. Be like, hey, I want to pick a former contenders coach brain. That would be fun. Best way to do that is to, in my Discord, which is in the description below, go to the Get Notifications channel, and in there you can react to get the watcher role, which will then give you Discord pings when I go live. So you can be here to ask questions. It's pretty cool. Right, you understand? How many scarves do you have? Well, 3 scarves currently are what we've seen. I mean, we're aware of, we've got this scarf, which came out at the 1500 mark. We've got the original scarf, and then we have the scarf that came out at the 1000 partner thing. So I don't know, if there's more scarves, we're just gonna have to get more subs to see if there's more scarves, or if there become more scarves, or what the case may be. I don't know. It's kind of an icon for the channel. Okay. Okay, I think that's going to do it, guys. I'll look around to see if there's another one that I want to do now, but I can't promise it because I have a fair amount of other coaching that I'll be doing today that'll probably be sessions as opposed to streams. Thanks, guys. Temporal out.